It's a freaking addiction, man. The longer I do this, the more I realize that
So
once
how long
you
has it been? How long has it been since you ran shit?
October 2020. But when I say I'm off cycle, I still run growth hormone, and I'm running some experiments.
IKC asks, he says, this question might ruffle some feathers, but given his suspicious progress as a teenager, do you think Chris Bumstead's kidney issues are not actually from an autoimmune disorder, which he is remarkably evasive in describing, but from abusing androgens from 15 to 16 onwards?
I think he's telling the truth.
Yeah, I think it was natural in that picture also, where it was 18. I mean, I've seen those genetic outliers.
There's no way that kid's abusing drugs.
No.
He's just a very gifted person, huh?
Yeah, and I've seen those genetic outliers myself around me. You go to the gym, you sign up, and then a buddy is like ripping the 100-pound dumbbells in a month, and you're like, why is that not happening to me?
I just did that.
Yeah,
but I have a muscle memory, obviously.
Look at his sister, man. His sister's a top 10 figure Olympian. I mean, yeah.
She's top 10. Wow.
Yeah,
she's
awesome. His sister was a great athlete too. That's a whole family of athletes, Ian and Chris and
So I want to shed some light on this. Maybe it'll make the person who's asking the question less suspicious. The kidneys are extremely affected in Boston. This is important for you also. The kidneys are extremely affected by sympathetic nervous drive. So the more stressed out, the more your nervous system, when it becomes fight or flight, it goes to sympathetic. When it does that, the kidneys they damage themselves. One of the things they most study in chronic kidney disease is sympathetic innervation to the kidney. For example, SGLT2 inhibitors like empagliflozin reduce sympathetic innervation to the kidney, thereby increasing erythropoiesis, improving your red blood cell count, because they reduce the nervous connection to the kidney. They lower the heart rate in the same way. So when you take steroids, you increase the nervous connection to the kidneys if it's tren or something, because you're in that nervous state all the time.
Right.
And when you're in that, huh?
And the blood pressure increases on top. It makes it even worse, Yeah. I think for him, I mean, it's probably an autoimmune disease that is exacerbated with the bodybuilding lifestyle. And again, not everybody has access to pharmaceutical grade compounds. And during contest prep, you're running underground labs regardless if you're running a little bit of tren or whatever. And maybe you got inflammation from the carrier oils as well. I mean, I mentioned it a million times before, so I'll mention it again. Some of the carrier oils cause inflammation and exacerbate pre-existing medical conditions like an autoimmune disease or maybe inflammation in the kidneys themselves. And
I tell you what, I think those pre-workout, my health started going downhill. Obviously the FTTP did me in, but my health started really going downhill when I started using compounds with a lot of PIP, like injectable Anadrol, injectable D-ball, injectable TNE, like any of the drugs that crash where you have to heat them up.
That injectable.
That's all the glycol stuff, right? All the glycol.
Yeah, the stuff that's mixed in the glucol, the stuff that smells like shit. Yeah. So that stuff crashes very easily. So, a good amount of time, these drugs have to be shot every day or every other day. And I was doing that, and I had to heat these drugs up constantly because they kept crashing. I really think, because I'll tell you what, before I'd be able to handle them, now if I took a shot of something that was crashed or that I had to heat up, the next day I feel sick, nauseous.
You feel sick, right?
Yeah, I feel sick, nauseous.
So people on the message boards, they will always describe that as test flu, right? You feel a little bit lethargic and a little bit sickly, and after injection, you'll get used to it, and you do get used to it because you get used to the feeling of feeling like shit. But it's the oil, and a lot of people get adverse reactions to the glycol and the propylene glycol and the migliol in some cases.
I used to be able to tolerate it, but not anymore.
No, so with prolonged exposure, it gets worse and worse and worse. And I used underground labs a couple of years ago, and then I got systemic inflammation to the point I couldn't even walk downstairs. My knees would just be inflamed chronically, and I would take all the supplements to get that resolved and spend thousands of dollars on TB500 and BP57. But it wasn't until I switched to 100% pharmaceutical that actually all this systemic inflammation went away. And I always ask people for blood work, right? So I saw every time the high sensitivity C-reactive protein levels would be sky high. And then I made a connection and said, it's the fucking oil. Because these guys, the C-reactive protein is low, when they're cruising on the same products, and then it's sky high when they go on cycle for contest prep, right? And then I started switching everybody to pharmaceutical grade, but it's not commonly accepted yet. People know about test flow and that ethyl oleate might give some adverse reaction. And besides that, it's not common knowledge yet. So all those sources that use glycol, propylene glycol, migliol, or anything else that's basically a solvent and not a carrier oil, it's a solvent. It's like refined hyper special benzoate.
I mean, it's because if you just interrupt for a second, just think about the idea of a solvent. A solvent has to be chemically active at dissolving things. So that's the point, right?
That's what it's doing on the inside. And you're bypassing your natural immune response and your ability to break the stuff down through the stomach, and you're injecting it. And now you got all this solvent in your muscle. So you see that creatine phosphate kinase is sky high because you start dissolving the muscle around the injection site, and then your liver enzymes go high, and then your C-reactive protein goes high, and you let that go for a couple of years, and then you have arteriosclerosis or heart disease or kidney issues.
Let's add a caveat though for Chris Bumstead specifically, because I know his coach Ian. Ian checks his C-reactive protein, and his C-reactive protein is infinitesimal. So I'm sure he's on track with Ian, and they're watching.
I'm sure.
Just to mention that. And also, Boston, that MK that I have, that I use, it is filled with solvents, bro. That thing, I can barely drink it.
It's a dropper, right?
Yeah, I don't want you to say that, but yeah. Someone has to cut this. But anyway, yeah, the one that one is filled with solvents, bro. Do not take it.
That's how they dissolve it.
Don't take that one. It's too strong, the solvents on that one. That one's like,
I love that one. That's my dude.
I like it, but it's I don't know how you drink it.
That was our best seller, man.
How do you drink it? I mean, I can tolerate anything, man. But after that, I'm drinking like 7-Up, water,
I've tried like 7 different companies. They all taste like shit like that.
Oh, do they really?
They all taste like shit.
I just made a conscious decision and said, okay, I'm not going to touch this stuff anymore.
MK?
No, nothing in solvents, whether that's the oral or the injectable,
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it's definitely a consideration. I mean, basically, I had basically the same result. A lot of people, a lot of weightlifters that use hormones end up with some kind of autoimmune issue because basically, I just want to explain this to the audience real quick. Basically, you get an autoimmune issue because of a few things. You have a genetic predisposition, which you can find in your genes. You had a stressful life event, usually. A very stressful event, big change causes the disease to come. And before that, you have a long period of interaction with what are called antigens, things that your body recognizes as damaging them. Originally, your body will send its soldiers of the immune system to attack those. Eventually, it starts getting confused and starts attacking other things. Yeah. And then you have a big stressful life event. You end up with Crohn's disease, or you end up with something severe like this kidney thing. Or something.
He was pretty much able to reverse it completely. I mean, the progress that Chris made from one year to the next, that's like Ronnie Coleman level progress. It's insane.
It's incredible.
Insane progress. It's like he doubled in size, and he's still underneath the weight limit. So I think it's I think he's doing everything right. So whoever asked the question, no, I think it was drug free at 18. Yeah. So not everybody's on the sauce, but unfortunately, most of it has to take sauce to look anywhere close to that.
Not if you ask Philion, apparently. Philion is this interesting YouTuber I just came across a couple of months ago, I think now. I finally discovered what he does. Basically, anybody with muscle, he says, is using steroids. Because he's never used steroids. It's a very interesting natty or not. Everybody with muscle is not natural on that channel.
Most of them take steroids, but there are genetic outliers, and I've seen it in Thailand too, where the guys just fucking blow up, and then they get on the sauce, and it's a little bit, and they clearly don't know what they're doing. They got horrible guidance, and they look better than I do. And then they come off, they PCT, they send me their blood work, their LH, FSH, everything is in range, and they don't lose any size. And you're like, how in the
Have you ever, Steve, do you remember Michael Lockett?
Yeah. Dude, also,
he turned pro. He turned pro at the Team Universe, and he was telling people, like, listen, he turned pro like 210 pounds or whatever. He was like, listen, guys, I'm fucking natural. And nobody believed him. He was in the muscular development saying he's natural, this and that. Nobody fucking believed him, right? Dude, this dude was like, all right, I'm going to get on gear now because I turned pro. He started competing at 255. Like in the next year, I mean, in 1 year, he went from 210 on stage to like 255. It was insane. So there is guys like that are just genetic freaks.
Let me tell you about the craziest genetic freak I ever met. Actually, I met 2 crazy genetic freaks. One was Egyptian, strongest guy I ever met. That was back in Dubai when I was a kid. But in LA, I once met a very hardcore Crip gang member. in a weird place in LA. Boston could probably imagine where I met him, but I met this Crip gang member and I was stunned, bro. This place that I was at had no food. The guy can't eat much. The guy's not on steroids. The guy has never lifted a weight in his freaking life. He was a bit shorter than me. He had lats that hung out like this, like this much on the side. Low lats. His arms were 18 and a half inches ripped. His chest was out like unbelievable. I looked at the guy. I was like, if you were taking 5 grams, and you were working out for 5 years, I would believe you. And the guy is there. He's doing pull-ups, bro. Just pull-ups.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I never seen anything like that. I've been trying to look for him after that I want to tell the guy, you should be a bodybuilder.
Think about all the black guys that come out of prison that look insane.
That's what I'm telling you. Yeah. No, but this guy was doing pull-ups every few days, not that often, and the muscle was just hanging everywhere. So there are people like that.
They build it, but it doesn't atrophy. Like I got terribly skinny, after I stopped training and did that fasting mimicking diet to get the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease under control.
Because you go to homeostasis.
Yeah. I'm still surprised I had some muscle left, to be honest, but I rebounded quite well. I gained 20 pounds of muscle since.
You think you're going to go back on cycle?
Of course.
He's going. No, he's going to regain everything.
It's a freaking addiction, man. The longer I do this, the more I realize that.
So how long has it been? How long has it been since you ran shit?
October 2020. But when I say I'm off cycle, I still run growth hormone, and I'm running some experiments with peptides. So the experimentation never stops. But right, I think when you take the plunge, literally, you start injecting stuff, that's like a life-changing event. And even if you go off cycle, you still find like peptides or shit to run on the side. Like, I can run a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and improve my quality of life. And you find excuses, just like Leo found an excuse to run test again. And I need some resilience.
I need resilience.
Bam.
Yeah, exactly.
Right away, right?
No, but mine happened because, bro, Steve, it was a real realization. I was thinking it like this. One of the reasons I was off hormones is because I didn't understand epigenetics and I wasn't sure what was going to happen to my child. Now, my concern is if I'm not on hormones, I may be hypoandrogenic, and I may be, if I have sons later, which is what I plan to do, I may not be, because I've taken androgens. When I don't take androgens, I might be hypoandrogenic, and that could be a problem.
For teaching morality, yeah.
No, for the inheritance, they'll be less aggressive, less virile, and so on. So that was so once I thought about that, then I said, okay, there's no need to keep like very low androgens for this period of time while I'm having kids,
Right. Yeah.